You dirty bird. Dirty bird.
Hello and welcome to the QUACKCAST, the Drunk Duck QUACKCAST. This is the first QUACKCAST of the year 2020, the year of our Lord, 2020 AD, on Drunk Duck, which is the most important place in the whole world. No. Anyway, it's the 1920s again. No, the 2020s again, which is fantastic. So we're all dressed as flappers at the moment in high heels and fishnet stockings, and I've got this beautiful black sequin dress with geometric patterns all down the front and a cloche hat, bob hairstyle, cigarette holder, feathers in my hair. I look amazing. Baines is dressed in a beautiful floor-length fur coat. He has a Brozoi dog with him. He's stroking very seductively. He looks just incredible.
Only because my hot dog costume's in the cleaners.
You look incredible. Your beaded headdress is to die for, Baines. I mean, that's like an antique. That must be worth thousands. Where the hell did you get it? You master.
Thrift shop.
And Tant's looking, just so elegant in her, her very narrow black dress and long elbow length gloves, and just incredible. Yeah, feathers again in the hair, hair beautifully finger waves, just attention to detail. My God, it's amazing. And that Art Deco jewelry as well, like diamonds and platinum. Wow.
Of course.
Wow.
Always.
Wow, Tants.
And I have these very plucked eyebrows that somehow managed to make a perfect semicircle.
You're
so
always
that I look at
surprised.
Yes.
Well, here we are. Pure 1920s. 2020s.
Exactly.
We're reviving it. So, yeah. We're very happy to be in this decade, still around. But for this Drunk Duck QUACKCAST, which is number 460, we're going to be chatting about tropes in fantasy, sci-fi, tropes in film, or tropes everywhere that are completely incorrect but are self-perpetuating and used regardless. The backscabbers, so the swords people wear on their backs, which is impossible in reality to draw a really long sword on your back.
Unless you had really long arms.
Yes, really long given arms.
I know what I'll do. I'll just take stuff that you said earlier.
Or they are very pliable swords. You haven't thought of that.
That's a good point.
Except the rubber swords, yes, that's how it works.
Well, what about bullets? What if when they hit a character and the character goes flying through the air? That could never happen.
Good point, Baines. My God, you're on the ball tonight.
I've been thinking this too.
Well, we'll chat about that, but first we have to get into the featured comic that QUACKCAST did for us this week. The featured comic is Runner. Enjoy!
Hello, this is QUACKCAST, and the feature I've selected for this week is Runner by J.C. Mraz, and it is rated T for Teen. A group of well-equipped runners meet at a challenging post in order to practice their running ability. The only problem is that dark creatures lurk in the deep and divided chasms of the natural reserve. However, there is much more than meets the eye when very dangerous and bizarre creatures start to emerge from the forest. Do these creatures have a fighting chance against the humans who are out to defend themselves? The art is drawn in color digitally. The comic shows off a world of original monsters. Pack a Camelback water bottle and prepare to run faster than ever before and read Runner by J.C. Mraz, rated T.
And that was the featured comic, Runner. QUACKCAST has given that to us. Okay, next up we have the musical theme that Gun Wallace has given us. Quai gave us this great feature. Now we have Gun Wallace giving us a featured theme. And guess what he's done the theme to? Well, it's the comic called Runner, the same one that Quai has just featured. Interesting, that. So, this particular theme. Breathing evenly, gauging the distance, examining the terrain. 1, 2, 3, go. Eating up the distance with every bound forward, progression, moving, pounding, on and on, lungs heaving, arms swinging, legs rise and fall, feet slam, heel first into the turf and spring away on the ball. This is an anthem to sprinting with touches of Relax by Frankie Goes to Hollywood. So, enjoy Gumwallis's interpretation of The Runner, which is a comic by J.C. Mars, rated T. And that was our theme. Gumwallis gave us the theme to The Runner. Okay, guys, you're there. We're talking about tropes or things that have been, just wrong in fiction. Things that are done wrongly, and they're self-perpetuating. So one of the big ones is that's always done is flying back when you're shot by a bullet. So this was originally done, I think, on film in order to show that someone had been shot. It's like you have exaggerated movements, and this was done originally in silent film. So I think it really was perpetuated in cowboy movies, which is the main thing, because you've got everyone being shot with little revolvers, pow, 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 and you didn't have color, so you couldn't show blood or anything like that, and you didn't even have sound originally. There was no sound, so it was hard to show that someone had been shot. So there's a lot of cues they couldn't show, so they had to exaggerate movement, and that's what they had done in those films. So when someone got shot with a bullet, they would go, whoa, flying back, or fall off a balcony into a horse trough, something like this, and that was a big thing.
Or the dying dance. Like they sort of trips away, in zigzag. They finally, 2 minutes later, they finally, lie down.
They do. They grab themselves where the bullet hits them in order so you don't have to show the bloody hole, and which there wasn't, of course. So yeah, you can do that. So that's probably where this comes from, and we've seen it like in films and TV shows and cartoons and everything. All perpetuated from this, which is a myth. It's all made up. Can't happen in reality, but you see it over and over. And why can't it happen in reality? Well, a bullet is a very light, small object. It's tiny. Even the biggest bullets, which, maybe the biggest bullet someone will ever be hit by is like a shotgun slug, which is 12 gauge. It's quite big, or like a 50 caliber bullet or a 20 millimeter. It's bigger than that. You're unlikely to be shot by. Anyway, so with these things, they don't weigh very much. They're traveling at incredible speed, sometimes supersonic, maybe twice the speed of sound. I don't know, really, really fast. But all the energy they carry is expended within the body, which is what they're meant to do. So they rip apart the body, or they expend a little bit of energy in the body by ripping a hole through it, and then they go out the other side. So they can't make someone fly back, because if they did that, then they wouldn't be having an effect. Like if you had like a bulletproof vest on, that can only stop to the maximum of about maybe a 7.62 bullet, which is like a high power rifle from quite a distance, not close up. And even that, if that hits you, still not going to be flown back. That's just going to like push you a little bit. Like a shotgun slug close up, maybe that will stop because that's a relatively low velocity and it's a very big bullet slug. But that's not even going to push you back that much when it hits. So yeah, it's a total myth, but we all, people even show it in comics, and that's become a visual language of being shot. So yeah, but it's based on fantasy, and it keeps on getting perpetuated. So that's interesting. Anyway, what are some of your things you guys have noticed that are like a niggling thing that's based on total fiction but keeps on getting perpetuated?
Oh, okay. Where do I start? I would say, as I did mention in the Patreon video, the jiggling gun. I really don't like that. It gets on my nerves. That's one thing. Because of course, guns are supposed to be very well put together machines that do not have loose parts in their mechanism, in order to get this rattler sort of effect. That's generally, again, because it is a visual medium, so that you can have your attention drawn to the gun that it is being handled. They get this sound effect in. At least that's how I explain it, how it happened, the whole trope of it. The other thing that I don't like, although I guess I am rolling with it lately, is you have a katana slice off a limb or a head, and the blood sort of juts out in high pressure, like it's coming out of those pumps that are for washing cars, like with that level of exactly that level of high blood pressure. Like if the guy had that level of pressure, blood pressure, they would be dead already. They wouldn't need to be decapitated. That's one thing. And the other thing is, of course, that it is too much blood. That again, I wouldn't have that much of a problem with it. But the blood that shoots out like this, it does again like a fire hose, in that the force is continuous, and then eventually it just veers off and stops. That's
like if you have seen something.
Exactly. If you have seen arterial blood just shoot out, which of course blood does shoot out, and if you have seen it, and I have, courtesy of Red Cross, it doesn't shoot out like this. It shoots out at the heartbeat.
Yeah, pulse.
So you would get squirts like this, and it would go like that.
Ew.
Sort of like a sprinkler. Okay, that's how it happens.
Yeah.
And the bigger the artery in diameter, the bigger the amount of blood.
Oh, really?
That shoots out, and of course that's also, the level of critical injury that you have. And that means that if, for example, the aorta has been severed, which is like the biggest artery we have in our body, then it's like 3 or 4 jets, and that's it, guys. It's done.
Yeah, rather than a rain that happens in these things, it goes.
Yes, we don't. Exactly. It's but the biggest thing that gets to me is that it's this continuum gush. It's not like this. Just at least, have it go at the heartbeat. At least do that, please.
Yeah.
Like, thank you. That's doing the thing.
Oh yeah, that is a good point. Yeah, I hadn't considered that, but yeah, that's what they always do in this stuff. It's just, and it makes no sense. But we take that, and because it's visual language, and it's fun, so we use it and we perpetuate it. Yeah, without actually thinking how it could work and why it's like that. Good point.
Yeah.
What about you, Baines? Any?
Well, I would say I don't have a lot that are springing to mind. There are some dialogue things that bother me, but I can't think of specific examples. But when someone asks a question that, without the exact dramatic or comedic answer they get, the question makes no sense. So stuff like that I notice all the time. It's like, what answer were you looking for? It's like, I wish I could think of an example offhand, but I see it regularly where like you can see the script in front of you as you're watching something.
Exactly, yeah.
So why would anyone ask that question unless they were setting up a dramatic or comedic punch?
Or when they refer to someone but don't mention their name, either in order to have the misunderstanding occur or have the other person ask, but who is that?
Yes.
And then dramatically reply.
And it's like, why would you talk like that and talk around a person's name? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can work in some, and I would say that works sometimes only in older comedies. Even comedy, like newer stuff, it's like, unless you're doing some kind of meta thing, it's off-putting. Yeah. It takes you out of the story.
I could also accept it because it does happen also in reality if someone is in a panic, like super panic, because then you don't talk with a view to get the person listening to understand you. It's your thinking that gets vocalized, and that's all it is. I can understand then saying, "Oh, he's coming," and then you have to ask, like, who is coming?
Right.
My mom
they just have to
like
give you a little reason to believe it. That's all. Just a little reason to believe it. Sorry, Az.
Exactly. Like, give us a little bit.
Yeah, just a little something. That's all that you need.
My mum talks like this all the time. It's very confusing.
Oh, really?
Your mom is a trope.
Exactly. It's just, oh, jeez.
The other one would be the tiny. Oh, sorry, Tans. I do have one more.
Please go on, and I'll say it after.
The tiny, usually protagonist or good guy, being able to easily knock over a much larger character in a fight.
Oh my god!
Something like that.
Yes.
Goes all the way back to Short Round in the Temple of Doom for me. That was the first time I noticed it, where there's a big action scene and he's kicking these huge villains out of the way with this light little kick. It's like, well, what? I still love the movie, but like I do notice that. And then you see it now with tiny little female protagonists.
Oh, and anime as well. That's
unless there's some supernatural justification for it, it's like take it right out of it.
That's another thing, and it gives you the impression that they haven't ever been in a fight with a bigger person.
Right.
To see how it is.
Well, it's okay. So the idea behind that is, I suppose, based on certain Eastern martial arts like jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, where you can use a person's force against them. So if they're doing a punch or whatever, you use the force of that punch to pull them off balance and throw them or something like that, which that sort of has a slight basis in reality.
No, but that works.
Yeah.
That works.
But if you are just on a pure attack, like a kick or whatever, then you're basing it on simple physics. So you've got a person of a certain weight and certain strength. There's a limit to the strength that a person can have, and if they're a certain weight, you can very easily calculate, you can actually not knock over this person unless you have absolutely surprised them and pushed them so far off balance. If they're like braced or whatever, you can't physically knock them over. You can't hit them so they fall over because you just don't have the strength. You don't have the physical momentum in order to do that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the thing is, even with martial arts, even with I I will not try to pronounce it because I have the Greek pronunciation. The thing that you said.
Jiu-jitsu.
Yes, that's the one. I just don't want to pronounce it very Greek.
Go ahead.
Jiu-jitsu.
It's fair enough.
Okay. Anyway, there are when they go to like the Olympics and everything, they don't just throw all the weights together. They have ranks as well, as far as I know. They will not let, and also they will not, I think, let men and women. They don't have a mixed event, do they? I think they are men and women.
I think so.
Segregate.
Yeah.
I think so too. I haven't checked, but I think so. So and that is for a reason, because even when you have the capacity to use someone's force over and the momentum that they might have and all of that against them, that will only work so far. And only if, again, as you said, they are taken by surprise, and if they are less skilled than you are, which is another thing. Like, yes, I can accept that a martial artist that is quite advanced and is female will take out a bigger man that is completely amateur in fighting. But that will take strategy still, and it will not be a usual thing. I mean, if they are like a brawler, like a British back door bar brawler, I still don't think that they will have it in the bag. At least they will have to work for it. So anyway, yes, the whole feminism thing has women portrayed like they are these superheroes in compact forms that sort of destroy men from afar even, and that is going to be a problem if anyone
it
buys
doesn't come from feminism originally, though. Like Bane said, it was with Short Round, but in anime it's like the idea is to show like a contrast, like something you'd think would be a person you'd think would be very weak and delicate is actually incredibly powerful. And these are definitely not feminist things where that comes from.
Yeah, but those usually are magical girls. They have the element of fantasy going for them, which is completely different, and that's totally legit and fine.
Well,
magically powered thing, of course, that's fine.
But that's across all anime. So we can have like magical girls. We have cybernetic girls. So they're robots. So you say, oh yeah, well they're more dense. They're steel. Obviously, they're going to be stronger. But then there's like human, like perfectly normal human characters as well who will do that, and that's just how it is. Like going back to Dragon Ball Z, little tiny Goku can knock over. He's an alien, whatever. But in other kind of things, we have like little tiny humans being able to best whoever, because that's the trope. Yeah. But we have to
the reason I'm saying that there is a lot of, when I'm saying feminism, I don't mean the feminist movement.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I mean this idea that equality means complete disregard for the specifications, let's say, the physical specifications that come as a pack and parcel of what it means to be a male or female body. That is the problem that perpetuates a lot this trope, assuming that we are not talking about superheroes again, okay, and other fantastical elements explaining away why this person, this female, slender, petite person is able to take out like a mountain of a man. So, yeah, that's the only thing I was alluding to, as a reason for perpetuating the stereotype and the trope.
Oh, fair enough. Like, see, the reason that it exists in the first place, obviously, is to show the contrast, like I got into before, between, okay, there's incredible power in this, but they're incredibly skilled. They can even take out this big character. So it has a reason behind it, but it has been done way too much. Because, I mean, there's a really good reason not to have it. It's because we have weapons. And weapons are a force multiplier. So you don't need to be a giant, huge person. You can be like Indiana Jones and shoot the guy with a sword. Because you can't compete on the same level. So you don't bother. You have a weapon. You complete on a different level.
Exactly. You take the fight where you have the advantage. And that also might make for a more interesting character as well. A character that manages to overpower someone that completely outranks them on the physical level, for example, is, at least to me, it's always a very interesting premise.
Yeah, we used to have that in a lot of films when you'd have amazingly interesting fight scenes because you'd have two characters who are unequally matched and they wouldn't just instead, magically be equally or magically overmatch this bigger person. They'd realize, like say James Bond versus Jaws, a classic scene from the old 1970s version of James Bond. So this guy's huge 7-foot man with steel jaws that can bite through steel. And James Bond has to fight against him. And, he loses his gun or whatever. So he has to work out clever ways, like electrocuting him or knocking him off a bridge or something like that. So, and that's the interesting part of the fight, watching how you deal with someone who is... greater than you. You're not automatically, I'm a better fighter because I'm the most skilled guy in the world, like they would in the modern James Bond, which is shit in my opinion, because he's suddenly, always this amazing fighter and can do like every karate move in the book. It's no longer interesting. All right, well, let's get away from that, the fighting stuff. What are some others we can talk about? All right, explosion.
The woman,
go on.
The woman that is very dynamic and efficient, and as a result, she has no connection to her feminine side, and when she tries, she becomes very clumsy.
Oh, okay. That's a complicated trope, that one.
Yeah.
Can you give us an example or
Yes. So the one I remember first that really got in my face and I hated it was Miss Congeniality, if you remember that movie.
Sandra Bullock?
Yes, exactly. So she has this, the trope basically is you have this makeover that she starts off being, this very dynamic and no nonsense cop that has nothing feminine on her for some reason, and then she has to become a contestant in a beauty pageant, and she gets this makeover sequence where it's very comedic because she has to have several sessions of getting her hair removed in various places and waxing sessions and stuff like that. So then you have this scene where she appears and she looks, gorgeous, and legs are a mile long. And
I know what you mean now.
She walks, and then she misses a step, or her ankle turns, or I don't know what happens, and she sort of eats dirt.
Yeah.
And that's our reminder that she is not actually very feminine. And I really don't like that. Like, you have you have either the woman is dynamic and masculine, but has no capacity of applying herself in the feminine side, I guess, in the feminine stuff, being pretty and being sexy and being whatever. Or when she is forced to do that, she becomes basically a slapstick figure.
Right.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, she can only be one or the other. And,
yes.
Yeah.
And if she tries to be both, she will be a clown in one.
Yes. Yeah. Sexy women who can use their sexuality properly can't be capable and good kind of that kind of thing. Well, I mean that they can be, yeah, but yeah, what you're saying is that this is a specific trope where you can either be one or the other. Yeah. That is problematic. Yeah.
Very. And it also takes away from the diversity that you can have in female manifestations, let's say, in the sense that they also, I don't know if you have noticed, but it seems to me a lot that the coding for female sexy is very one note. Very one. They all have the same look to them when they are sexy characters. And you don't have various sexy characters in various shapes and forms. I don't know how to explain it. It's like you can have a scientist, for example, a woman scientist, who is also very feminine, and she is not looking like she just walked out of a porn set. So the idea is that she can be practical and she can be sexy and she can have her own sexiness to her because it comes from her personality and her choices and the stuff that she's interested in, and she will not have necessarily the cues, the visual cues that usually are the ones that code for, okay, this is a sexy bombshell, like high heels and specially coiffed hair that have no place in the lab, and or if even if she is wearing a ponytail, she has the most inappropriate makeup. There is makeup in the lab, guys, but it's just not that, that sort of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, that can be confusing and overdone. Yeah, we can.
It's not neat, a female who's a jock kind of thing, same kind of thing, right? If you're not sort of in the stereotypically sexy feminine garb, like you can still be sexy, you can still be, attractive.
Just look at Hedy Lamarr, for example.
Who?
She was.
Say that again?
She's a confusing example.
Who Johns?
Hedy Lamarr, I think.
Oh, Hedy Lamarr, yeah, the classic film star who went on to do some radio technology and do some patents, radar stuff that was quite useful in technology later on with the Bluetooth patents. Yeah, famous Hedy Lamarr, English actor, I think. Yeah. Well, that's an interesting thing. It sort of brings you on to, okay, what about makeup? So always, this is a reason for it that, female stars in films and TV shows will have makeup because, we need to make our star look beautiful. We need them to be attractive to the viewer. Both males and females respond better to, faces that are made up in this specific way. But in reality, in a lot of these applications, these women would never, be made up so beautifully like that. Like, soldiers and things, that would be a very rare occurrance where a soldier would be wearing, amazing makeup. Yeah. And a lot of other things, like Lara Croft, that kind of stuff. I'm speaking of the Angelina Jolie version. Often these kind of characters would not be made up beautifully. There's only a specific kind of, like area where women are are going to be. Although it can be surprising, like there's a lot of occupations where women are going to be wearing makeup, even though you wouldn't expect them to, like police, nurses, things like that. That is down to personal choice rather than occupation. Like automatically we think,
there's also something that has to be taken into account. The manner of application of makeup varies greatly between occupations and workplace environment in general, because you might have, for example, I don't think there are too many places where women completely don't wear any makeup. Of course, again, it is a matter of choice. But what you will see usually is that it is extremely geared to the job specifications. How do I mean this? You will not wear things that will get in the way of your job. So falsies, for example, or
eyelashes. You mean, not boobs?
Yes. Yeah. Oh no. I mean false eyelashes.
Yeah.
Okay. False eyelashes and extremely precise makeup will not be worn in professions where you need to move very quickly and you will be met with the elements and where you will have certain things to contend with that might actually present problems for you. For example, if you are a nurse, for example, will wear makeup in a way from the nose and up. So you will see often no lipstick and just the eyeliner, and that's it.
Foundation.
Or they have, and some mascara maybe, and that's it. They will not wear any.
It does depend. I mean, I have a really good friend who, she works as an emergency nurse and she wears her lipstick. So it's things like her main thing that she does is take out piercings and stuff like that. That if someone
that's another thing. Again, as I say, it depends on how everyone feels comfortable. I have seen that surgery nurses and doctors will not wear any makeup at all when they know that they are going to be in surgery. And they do that for other reasons, for safety and stuff.
Yeah, and plus you'll be wearing a mask. It's going to be pasted all over the inside of that. And, there's
exactly.
And then from the other way, there'll be, there might be men who are going to be wearing makeup in daily life, and then you're not going to show that in movies so much because that's, we have to have a very strict gender binary in a lot of our films that we see. But we also have women who are absolutely never going to wear makeup, and they're not butch women. They just don't wear it. They don't like it. They don't do it. So that's something that happens.
Again, yes. Especially men, I have seen they will wear stuff that you cannot necessarily see immediately that they are wearing, but stuff that, especially concealing stuff, they will wear. Stuff that will hide blemishes and sort of enhance the general appearance without drawing attention to the fact that they are actually wearing makeup. There are a lot of things that are not taken into account in the sense that you cannot have the same type of makeup for all occasions. That simply does not happen. And it throws people out of the not necessarily throw them out of the narrative, but it shows that it is like a Hollywood. It's a production, and it's not immersive.
It's quite fake. Yeah, you can. The more the makeup is, the faker things can appear. You've got to be careful. Like a great example of using makeup really well in a film is Fifth Element, which I resaw again the other day. So the star, I've forgotten her name. Yeah,
Jovovich.
Jovovich. Yeah, so she gets popped out of this like a cloning machine or whatever, and she hasn't got any. She's got her badly dyed orangey red hair, and I mean, obviously she's got makeup, but it's very, very subtle, and it's like makes her look like really, really bad. And she actually gets this little electronic thing, puts it on her face, and it gives her amazing makeup, which gets very quickly rubbed off over the course of, like, she has like some sort of disaster, like she's getting shot or something. And anyway, but like the makeup changes in the course of the film, and it's really well done. So that's a more realistic kind of application of it, even though it's an incredibly silly, amazing, hyperbolic fantasy science fiction film. Yeah, they still treat makeup in a more realistic way than a lot of more realistic set films. All right, so yeah, makeup. What about, say, like explosions? People rarely react realistically to explosions.
Oh, from explosions.
What's that?
People walking away slowly from explosions.
What? Yeah, without flinching. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is.
Hey, in the right context, that can be great.
It's almost impossible to do. I remember listening to an interview with the people who did the scene in Breaking Bad, probably series 2 or series 3, where these two twins who are like, mass murderers, and they blow up something and they're walking away slowly, and that's meant to be really exciting. And I think they had to have a lot of training in order to do that, because they keep flinching, as people do. And so even in something like that, like the real actors couldn't do it without a lot of training and
preparation,
being told exactly when the explosion is going to happen so they wouldn't react. They had to know when it was going to happen so they wouldn't be surprised. So you can't do that. It's like automatic reaction. But yeah, and we've got explosions like throwing people without injury. You just get thrown and you're fine. Oh, I ended up in the tree, I'm fine. I mean, I personally do, like, the physics seems to say that is really, really impossible to happen, but I know people have said they've been thrown by explosions and they haven't been injured. So I got anecdotal kind of stuff. But normally if the pressure is great enough to throw you physically, then you're going to be deaf. It's going to burst your eardrums. So that kind of thing happens because the pressure needed for pushing you and needed for bursting your eardrums, like there's a lot less pressure needed to burst your eardrums. So yeah, there's that. And they almost never are in films, and they're almost never thrown. I think there's a film, The Other Guys, with Will Ferrell and the Marky Mark guy. In that, they actually show them walking away from explosion happening, them both falling down and screaming and being deaf and not being able to talk to each other. Yeah.
That's
that could work.
Yeah.
I mean, what actually happens in explosions is your limbs fly faster than you, so they get ripped off. You can often end up without your clothes, like your trousers literally blow off your body. That happens a lot. So your clothes might get blown off, but probably you won't get blown across the sea. So you can come out of an explosion almost uninjured and naked. That can happen. But you have to be far enough away from the blast radius. Anyway, yeah, explosions. Let's see. We've covered sounds of guns.
Oh, okay. I got one. The sound a sword makes while being unsheathed, which is always a metallic note. Like
Oh, I've got some swords here.
Unless you have a metal scabbard, unless the scabbard is made of metal, that will not happen.
That's right.
Just a second. I have many antique sabers here. So these are antique 19th century sabers. Yeah, metal scabbards. Let's see if we can do something like that. So
Oh.
you got rattling away in its scabbard. I wonder if you heard that sound.
Okay, a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Doesn't really ring like a bell though. It's more a rattle and a
No.
clack.
It might be the quality of the steel, though. I remember in my fantasy books, the only sword that makes a metallic note when it is unsheathed is that of the dragons, of the dragons, and that's because they have a metal scabbard, and it's a very special alloy. So that note is being associated with doom, because usually when they unsheath the sword, everybody else dies. They are that good. So, but nobody else makes that sound. And I was very proud of that at the time, that I made this different.
Oh, here we are. Here, I've got an old Spanish sword. This one sort of does it. Can't do it. Yeah, almost. So yeah, it's these are metal scabbarded swords. So yeah, this is mainly a product of the industrial era in the 19th century, where they could make kind of things. So before that, we had leather things, which are called sheaths rather than scabbards. I mean, the difference between a scabbard and a sheath is that a sheath is it's not rigid. So a sheath you can get a slight tone sometimes from unsheathing a leather sheath or whatever, but it's so quiet that it's almost imperceptible.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's not gonna be that metal sing that we hear. That's not gonna be it.
Oh yeah. So even with metal scabbards, it's mostly a clacking kind of noise. Yeah. So that is a false trope, and again, the idea behind that is because you need a like a cue for the audience to realize that something's happening. Oh, they're unsheathing the swords, because normally you wouldn't even know. It's silent. So yeah, you have to be able to show it somehow. Like every time
it's necessary.
Yeah, every time they move a sword, it goes shing. Shing, 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 shing.
The other one, that I really don't like, but I can't really blame them so much as because I started not liking it after I learned how it's actually done, is CPR and how they do the CPR thing. There are some that do it correctly, but mostly what they do is they sort of they don't put the person on a completely straight position. Like they don't remove the pillow. They do not, like when they start start compressions and everything. Or actually, no. Let me rephrase that. They have a defibrillator right next to them, and they do not use it, which is actually the first thing that you have to do when you have someone being in VFib, which is the only time when you use the defibrillator. That's another thing, that they use the defibrillator for everything. They would burn the heart, or they would make it explode, because it's only for one specific thing. When the heart is actually beating, it's not a flat line. Yeah. They show a flat line, and then the doctor comes in with the paddles, like clear.
Yeah.
And we got a pulse. We got a pulse.
Yes, we got a pulse, and no.
Yeah.
That's not how it happens. It's for when the heart is beating, but it's not beating as it should.
Yeah. It's irregular rhythms, basically.
Completely irregular. It's actually not, it is making this tremor, like a small tremor sort of movement, and it is not actually pushing and pumping the blood. So the heart is still functioning, just not functioning as it should. And what the defibrillation does is that it resets the electric cues that go into it, and it starts beating properly again. That's the whole reason for it. If you have a systole, which is the flat line, then no matter of electrocution is going to do anything because it's already shut down.
Yeah.
The only thing you're gonna do is damage it.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
So you can't cut it out and give it to someone else, which is, well, it's good for at that stage. Apparently it's only 2.
And it's funny, like, you get so used to that, seeing that on movies and TV, like the flat line, that when I've seen some programs do it more realistically, like you're talking about, and it's kind of confusing as a viewer. It's like, oh, it like looks like the heart's beating still.
And we don't realize that it's not for that.
Yeah.
And there's only 2 rhythms where that it can be used. It's only
exactly
2 specific ones, and you can't do it, or else you.
And then when we go to the actual mechanics of the CPR thing, you see some again, I think that they do that, to be honest, for the actor's protection, because you should never perform CPR to a person that doesn't need it. They might actually lose the rhythm of their heart if you do that. So don't do it. But you should. They have these very soft compressions that they are performing that nobody would feel that. Certainly not the heart if they do that. Or they are doing it very slowly, and then they are saying, don't die on me or come back or something. These lines that they say where you don't have capacity to talk while you are performing CPR. It's that intense physically on the one giving it.
You have to keep
yes, the only thing you can do is count, and that really it's for you, because you have to count 30 compressions before you try to perform to actually give how do you say it? Not
mouth
kiss of
to
life.
mouth.
Yes, mouth to mouth. I'm trying to translate from Greek now. That's why I'm having. So 30 compressions and then 2 breaths down the person's mouth, and then 30 again. So you have to count, and that's the only thing you have capacity to do while performing CPR. You do not have the capacity to say, come back to us and hold there and don't do this to us.
Don't leave me.
Damn you, Jamie! Don't you die on me! You hear me?
Exactly.
Yeah, the other thing is songs people will use in order to stay in time. They keep that in their head. You'll have a song.
Staying alive.
Staying alive, yes, exactly. That's for your breathing.
That's actually the rhythm, guys. It works.
Oh,
it's true. That one is true.
Well, that one that's awesome.
It's pretty cool.
That's the frequency with which you have to do the compressions, and that's why it is so intense for the actual person performing the CPR, because you cannot stop at this rate, like going pop, 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 pop like this, until the person comes to or the paramedics arrive. So there have been occasions where you actually, where the person that performs the CPR collapses out of sheer exhaustion. They cannot continue.
So you need someone else to take over, which is the best way.
Mm-hmm.
All right. On the medical theme, well, the medical stuff there's a lot in there.
Yeah.
That's wrong. Okay, the Heimlich maneuver, that is shown as the only way, and the Heimlich maneuver is specifically getting behind someone, putting your hands on the diaphragm and pushing. This is
upwards. You push upwards, guys.
But this isn't even recommended by the World Health Organization. In most countries, they actually they say you shouldn't practice that. It's like back slaps are the most recommended way internationally.
You go in combinations. The protocol says that you start with 5 back slaps between the shoulder blades, and you have to have the person tilted forward, so that when you slap with the force. It's not just come. It's supposed to be forceful, very forceful.
An object from the airway. But yeah, actually, a lot of like medical health organizations will say absolutely do not do the typical classical American Heimlich, because it's not safe. It can actually injure, because it can kill people.
Yes, that is true, but it's not that it's not recommended. It's you do the 5 back slaps, and if that doesn't work, then you do 5 Heimlichs, and then again 5 back slaps, and you go one in turns until
what I'm saying is, by a lot of health organizations, it is actually they do not recommend it. They say do not, because the hand slaps are just as effective, and they say it's actually do not do the Heimlich.
Mm-hmm.
So there is.
Well, if you don't know, let's put it that way. If you don't know how to do it, do the back slaps. But if you do it anyway, at any case, it is mandatory afterwards to get the person to the hospital for checkup, for many reasons. I cannot really say that it's not that you shouldn't do it, provided that someone that has the education has shown you how. Because if you don't know exactly where to press in the diaphragm, you might end up just be pressing the gut, and that doesn't do anything. Or you might be pressing upwards, above the diaphragm, and again, that doesn't do anything. So, yeah.
Yeah, I do have a good article on it that I'll link for the QUACKCAST. Okay.
Sure.
Well, yeah. So there's that. Let's see. Another trope we often see is this is a visual trope. We'll see women wearing a in historical films. Okay, so in historical stuff, we have a woman wearing a corset on her bare skin without a shift underneath, looks very sexy. And this is always a trope in old cowboy films. We'll have the saloon girls doing that, or we'll have this woman going, oh god, this corset is chafing. Oh, it's it's constricting me. And she'll be wearing it without a shift underneath, which they did not do. They always wore it over the top of a shift.
Yeah.
What's that?
Mm-hmm. Or a chemise.
Yeah, a chemise or something would be underneath, because this is like a very specialized garment that you would be wearing you wouldn't have a whole bunch of corsets. You'll have maybe one corset. And you've got to keep it clean, and it's going to chafe your skin. So you have to wear something underneath, which is going to be washed daily, and it's going to be there to protect you against this hard thing. It's like wearing a sock when you're wearing a boot or a shoe. You do that.
Yeah, and the thing is also with the corsets that the classic corset that we have in mind, the one that has the hourglass figure, and is the stereotypical one that ties in the back, and people, you have the maid sort of pulling all she can, for tight lacing and stuff like that. This is the winter corset, actually. So the summer corset is a skeleton of that thing. So, which goes more to show that they were other layers underneath the corset that were, the ones that were actually protecting the skin and everything else. So the summer corset is like a basket, basically. It really only has the support that offered the constriction and the the shape of the figure without anything else, so that the body would be able to breathe and be able to tolerate the high temperatures. So there's also that.
Good point.
Just wanted to put that out there.
Very good point, which is not often covered because it's always, women perspiring and stuff like that. And actually getting into the corset thing, another old myth is the everyone tight-laced, and it was always so restrictive that it would stop the heart or like damage the breathing, move the organs, which is all myth. That idea actually comes from a germ of truth that's been turned into fiction, because there was a fashion for tight lacing, and tight lacing was like extremists. Like we have people do extreme things. Like we have people who like do all sorts of piercing. They'll have a tunnel, which is an opening like in your cheek or something like that, or big tunnels in the ears. And these are stuff that people do, but it's not rare. Not everyone who pierces does that. And like a lot of like cultural practices, it's there are examples of extremes, and then there's what general people do, and not everyone tight laced. You had to be like someone who had the resources to be able to do this. Be very wealthy and have the time, so you weren't doing a lot of physical work. This was someone who was wealthy and stay at home, that kind of like society ladies, and they would compete because it was all about impressing other women. It had nothing to do with like, society forced them to do this. That's bullshit. This was competing with other women.
Sport, basically.
So you had fakers as well. Like you have a lot of photographs of people tight lacing from the 19th century that were edited, like painted carefully in order to make them look like their waist is thinner. So that's totally fake. We had
Photoshop.
There was also a cultural movement at the time of people against tight lacing, saying, or corsets in general, and they were like a temperance movement sort of thing. Like back then, saying, they're really bad. This is causing women to faint. This is causing women to miscarry and have their organs. But that was none of that was based on medical science. It was based on because they didn't even have x-rays at this stage. They didn't know what was happening to the body. This was based on people just imagining and developing their own theories. And there were like things that couldn't happen. There's myths about women having ribs removed in order for the corsets to be tight laced, which is absolute mythology because they couldn't do that kind of operation.
They didn't have the knowledge for that, and the thing is that people tend to forget that we have corsets today. They are just confined to medical uses usually, and they are actually very helpful in providing support for the spine or whatever it is that correcting a position or postures of the body. The thing is that if you use the corset normally as a normal human being, it was basically a big bra of sorts, in the sense that it offered support for the upholstery upstairs, but also for generally, your back, your general torso was basically supported, which was actually very, potentially, if you did it right, it was actually a very resting thing. I mean, it took weight off you. So, of course, if you tight-laced and you were an idiot, well, then you had issues. The same kind of issue that you would have if you walk around in stilettos all day, every day, or if you are extremely thin, like anorexic level thin, in order to be meeting certain, standards of beauty or whatever. So the extreme stuff, totally. But corsets are generally very, very misunderstood and used badly because they are all wearing their underwear on the outside. Like you couldn't actually see the corset.
Yeah. Another thing, the idea that your organs move if you're going to tight lace. Yep, that's going to happen, but that's not going to harm you because our organs can be moved around in our body. We can be forced into move without injury. I mean, we have like hundreds of years we've had the Burmese ladies with their amazing neck rings. They put so many gold rings around the neck that it forces the clavicles of the shoulders to press down on the torso. So the lungs and a lot of other body parts have to move to accommodate those, and they live great lives. These women are used to be treated extremely well, and they have, being supported and, live very, very well because they're icons of their villages. So yeah, moving organs, during pregnancy, organs will move. This happens. Yeah. Shock horror. You've got this enormous thing in a woman's body, maybe one baby, maybe two, maybe three. That actually moves organs, and women do not die because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the capacity to adjust for that. That's not like something that kills us. So yeah, that's again based on just mythology and made up stuff. So yeah, that's a good one. Haven't got sort of reaching the end of our time here, but Baines, have you got any more?
I think that's all that comes to my mind.
Okay. Let's see. Maybe one that annoys me most recently is so there is a fashion, I don't know if it's still around, but it has been for a while, of men having very stylized facial hair. So this is like a 5 o'clock shadow, except it's shaved right down. So you have hairs like maybe 0.5 millimeter on the face. So it looks like someone hasn't shaved, but it's cut very, very cleverly. So you have this geometric kind of 5 o'clock shadow. And that's fine in the modern day. But you couldn't do that in the past because they did not have shearers, clippers that were calibrated that delicately. Well, the fashion wasn't there for a start. And to have that kind of calibration of clippers is just ridiculous. You had either completely shaved and you'd grow it a bit, but you wouldn't like sculpt unshaven stuff because people would have to be, like without special tools, that takes a lot of work, and a person doing that every single day would be, that would just not be practical with, older kind of methods. So yeah, that's another silly thing. Anyway, that's not really a big one. I can't really think of much other ones that... okay, yeah, someone did mention on Facebook when I made this post of people sliding down a rope from a helicopter without gloves on. Even with gloves on. Now, I've tried this, not from a helicopter, I've tried this sliding down a rope. My highest is 33 meters. I slid down a rope from a ship's mast. And I had leather sailing gloves on that burned through my gloves and gave me friction burns on my hands. It burned through I had jeans on as well. I had burn marks on those, and that's only 33 meters. Imagine what that would do to someone in a helicopter. That would just be, yeah. You'd be bones, basically. So yeah, that's another one. I don't know. Like, should we wrap it up or?
Yes.
I think
here's a title for this one. Enough trope to hang yourself.
Oh, that's awesome.
There we go.
That's awesome.
I'm writing that now.
Yes. Baines is the king of puns.
Punny title.
Enough trope to hang yourself. All right, so I think I should wrap this up.
Yes.
In that, okay, so the reason for a lot of these tropes is usually because visually they looked good in cinema, and this is a very easy way to recognize stuff, or like being able to hear it or whatever. So and it became something that self-perpetuated and existed only in fiction, and it gets copied and copied and copied and copied, but it does not exist in reality. And I'd love to know other examples of things like that.
Yes, tell us in the comments.
Yeah.
We might even make a section 2, because this was fun.
Yeah. I want to know about all the things that don't... And like your comment, Baines, about the dialogue, that's a huge subject. I'm sure there's lots of other things like that.
I'll add a comment. If any examples come to mind, or if I see any, I'll take a note of them. So
yes, let's try to find tropey dialogue for next time if we can.
Yeah, that only exists in movies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah. Or maybe sometimes that actually it exists in movies, but then it comes to reality and people start using it in reality. That can happen too. Mm-hmm. Like the way American films, like in war films and stuff, they always say "fire in the hole," which I don't know whether that started out as a real military term. I think it was a mining term. Like in Australia, the old term in the 19th century, this was "fires on," which was a mining term, and I think that might have come to the military from a film. So, because, everyone uses it, and that's just what you expected to say, Anyway.
It's funny, like, how some of these are so pervasive, they distort our perception of reality, right?
Yeah.
Like, sort of experience in, medical care or the military or whatever. So it's like someone did fire in the hole once, and it just, like, oh, that works. And now it's, it's just taken from other movies before, and, like, even more so the medical stuff and like other things. It's like now, like, some dunce like myself doesn't know how the actual world operates.
Yeah, we all think you can do the defibrillators on everything, bring you back to life magically, or the injection to the heart of adrenaline. That's another one. That'll revive someone from a drug overdose and bring them back to life as if nothing happens. So that's how you do it.
Oh, that's one final thing. If we have time, it's when you knock someone out, and like they knock someone out and they stay unconscious for like 30 minutes, 1 hour, and then they wake up. It's all okay. And they would never talk about it again, which is absolute bullshit. Yeah. Because if you don't wake up from being knocked out, like within the minute, and even I might even have said like more than again, it's too long. You are considered to have serious brain damage or some kind of problem that has occurred from the blow, and it's an emergency.
Yep.
It doesn't happen that way. Usually you are out only for seconds, and then you are back.
Yep. If you're knocked out, you can face stroke, aneurysm, all sorts of horrible problems. You can die.
Certainly you would be concussed.
Brain
concussion.
Damage. Yeah. That's bad. They cover that in...
when it happens like multiple times, like someone wakes up and then they get knocked out again comedically, or they get knocked out 2 or 3 times within the same day, and it's fine. And we're all fine.
That's the humane way of dealing with someone, is always, I'm doing it for your own good, knocking someone out, and you think, no, you're actually being a real dick.
Now, what did it sound like when they knocked him out? There's another trope.
What's that?
What did it sound like when they landed that punch?
Oh, yeah.
There's another trope.
Crunch, bash, yeah.
Like, sounds like a snare. Yeah.
They cover that in Archer, actually, in the a couple of times. So, when he knocks someone out, he actually said, "Oh my God, this guy could have brain damage from that. We better give him medical care." And how long was I out for? Oh my God, we should check for a So they do. That was actually a really funny thing in Archer. Oh well. So we should say goodbye for now, and we'll be back next week.
Yes.
In 2020.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.